Hey everyone, in my last video I told you that I was going to show you how to do a tutorial on water and how to create water for your terrains. Now it's been a while since my last video and I apologize for that. I've been caught up in a new project. Before I was working on this guy showing you how I made this terrain here. My ice fields, I've put that on hold because I ordered some Hearst Arts rubber molds and I've started building a castle. And here is a little example of what I've been working on here. This is a plaster casting of a bunch of little pieces that I've all assembled and painted in order to make a castle. This is just a small portion of it, but I wanted to show you guys what I've been working on here. Here is another cool piece, a nice little hallway with some gargoyles and some seats and arches and whatnot. So rather than showing you on the ice terrain how to do water, I figured I would do a fountain in my castle. And so here I have this is a room that hasn't been painted yet. I've just started assembling it, but I've created like a little fountain section here. And because these are all individual little pieces, I've sealed the inside with Mod Podge, which is a kind of glue sealant type product. And I've sealed that so that when I pour in the liquid, it's not going to seep out all the cracks. Even though it's glued, there might be little openings here and there which I don't want it seeping out of. So what I'm going to do for this video is I'm going to fill this fountain. Here's my little gargoyle that I'm going to have sitting in here. And I'm going to have water shooting out of its mouth and into this fountain. And I'm just going to show you how I do that. And before I get into that, well actually I'll show you this right here. This is what I'm using for water. It's a pour-on high gloss finish. Let me raise this up so you can actually see. Envirotex pour-on high gloss finish. This is for like varnishing a table and whatnot. It's made up of two separate liquids that you combine together to make a liquid that will, or to make a varnish that will seal nice and hard. What you want to be careful of is that you use the exact same amounts of each product. You need to use a measuring glass measuring cup to find the exact amount, because if it's off even by a teaspoon, it's going to be a very sticky product and it will never harden. So you need to use the exact amount. So I'm going to be pouring that into here. For the water coming out of its mouth and streaming down into the pool, I'm going to use fishing line, but I'll get into that in a minute once I'm ready. Little bit more about these Hearst Arts molds if you're interested. Here's another piece that I've put together, and there's a whole bunch of little things that you can build, a bunch of different rubber molds with different pieces. Here is a crate, or a large wine barrel that sits on these on this little stand here. And we have piles of coins. Let me put these up here so you can see them. More barrels and crates and sacks of grain for all your different little figures. And to give you a size comparison, here is a 28-inch millimeter character, just to give you a size reference there for how big these things are. A giant wine barrel. But yes, so these come in I got 5 different rubber molds. This is the floor tile, and this is Gothic. Has a bunch of, this is this guy right here in the corner, 2 halves that you glue together. Here's the little statue figure there, gargoyles, pieces for benches, whatnot. This is the wall tile, and another Gothic one. These are the big pillars here. Again, 2 halves, archways, there's doors, all sorts of different things. And here's the rubber mold, which has like all the crates and barrels and coins and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm working on building this huge castle. But let me continue with the tutorial for how to do this water. Alright, you guys, so I got the final stages complete. I have everything assembled and painted. Here's a little bit of a closer look. I did a dark gray paint and then a lighter gray dry brush. The gargoyle there is just from those of you who might know it, the Dragon Strike board game. Really old school board game back when VHS was big. For those of you who know what VHS even is. Coming out of the mouth here, I just hot glued some floral wire. So it's a very thin wire used for floral arrangements. Pretty easy to get a hold of, and I just have a little few pieces snipped in there. I've never used floral wire before. The previous one I used fishing line, but I found fishing line very hard to manipulate, and thus I wanted to give this a try and see how it would turn out. So here we are, moving on to our Envirolit Pour-On High Gloss Finish material here. I have the 2 different types. I'm going to pour them together into a measuring cup here. It's important that you use a throwaway measuring cup because this stuff is very sticky. It will ruin the measuring cup. I got this at the dollar store, $1. So please don't use your parents' measuring cup, their nice glass one or whatever. Your mom will get really pissed at you. Okay, so I got the amount that I need of each, exactly half and half. The next thing I want to do is I want to tint this a little bit to give it a little bit of a color. And this is before I'm stirring it together. Now the important thing to do when adding paint to give it a tint of color is to add a very, very, very small amount. You hardly want any at all. You can always add more, but you can never take away. And you'll be amazed at how much a little drop of paint. So here's like half of drop of paint on my spoon. And I'm just going to stir this in as I mix these two together now. And it's important to mix these two together thoroughly for probably at least 30 seconds to a minute. Make sure that they mix together properly. So if they don't mix together properly, again, you're going to have that sticky tone to the fluid. Okay, so I'm going to add a tiny little bit more blue. Alright guys, we're all stirred up here. I've got kind of the color tone that I want. Now all I need to do is pour it into the ravine here. Noting that I did seal this as mentioned earlier. So I'm just going to pour it in and let it fill the whole area, make sure I get some on all the sides. It does run pretty smooth. It's going in pretty good here. Pretty much got the exact amount I wanted. And now for the last little bit, I'm going to drizzle this over top of that white, the wire that I had in here. And the goal is to make it look like water's actually pouring out. So here's the finished product. I've gone ahead and poured in the liquid. It's hardened. What you might notice right away is I didn't like how the floral wire looked. I actually ripped it out completely, and I went back to fishing line. Very thin fishing line. And yeah, the fishing line makes it look like it's actually running water. It's very finicky to work with though, so you need to be prepared for that. What you might also notice is the gloss around the edge here, right on the very end. And that was me in my stupidity, forgetting that the water hadn't hardened yet, and I had taken this out, the fishing line, and I went to put in taken out the floral wire to put in the fishing line, and I forgot that this hadn't hardened. I picked the whole thing up to actually put the wire in, and it all poured out over the edges. I just wasn't thinking. Anyways, so I'm gonna have to either paint over that. I think I'm actually just gonna leave it. I don't mind how it looks, but yeah, just once you've poured in the liquid, you don't really want to move anything. When doing the fishing line here, what you need to do is, as the liquid is starting to harden, probably about 5 minutes in, you need to start scooping it up with a little plastic spoon and pouring it over the fishing line. And gradually it's going to start hardening all the way up to the top. So you just need to keep pouring it over this fishing line until it's hardened all the way up to the top, and that will give you this nice looking stream. That's it, guys. If you have any more questions about anything, feel free to leave comments. I was trying to get back to you and answer anything. I hope this was helpful. Have a good one.